Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joe Menza here. Here's a little friend coming by to pay us a little visit before we do some painting. And she'll look like she could live in the place we're about to paint here. And nice little winter scene we're gonna do here. I'm using Paul Rubens 140 pound. This paper here, it comes on a block. It's sealed all the way around. And it's 10.5 by like 15.5. It's kind of an unusual size, but I kind of like it. The price is good. It has some good absorbency. It's not your super high-end paper, but it's a decent paper. I ordered it off Amazon. There's like a Paul Rubens shop there. I'm not really sure who's behind it. I think it might be a Chinese company. I actually bought some of their paints. The problem I have with these paints when you buy these, a lot of them, is you can't get individual colors. It seems like you can only get like in sets, and then you need more blue, and then it's like, well, what do I do now? So here I'm just doing some light colors here. I just want to keep this very, very light in the background. You'll see me, I clean off my palette a little bit. Sometimes if I see like I want to get a little gray or something, you clean up your palette and you almost always get some kind of gray. So I'm just starting off with that. And then this picture here was one I got off of one of the free sites like Pixabay. Good source for, commercial-free photos. So here, I'm putting some yellow on here. Now, I was going to start brushing it, and I thought, I don't want to disturb what I have going. So I'm taking I have a couple different yellows. I have like a yellow ochre, azo yellow. I fill in my bottle. And I'm finding like when I fill my little spray bottles, you've seen me in other videos use these little spray bottles. You can take those other colors that you get in a set and you never use, like a yellow or something like that, and you can use it for background colors. You could use it in your spray bottle. Good way to use up colors. I took one, it was more like a rosy color, and I put that in the bottle, and I use that kind of for warming things up or getting a little bit of red in a scene. So I want the light to come from not the light necessarily, but I want maybe the sun or something coming from the right side in this. So I'm mixing up a little more color here, a little more gray. I'm trying to get this into like a light gray. Actually, I'm sorry, a light brown. And there's a hill here to the right. And I want kind of a little bit of sort of vegetation there kind of sticking out through what would more than likely be the snow. So just kind of following that line coming down. Now, when you do a hill, as you'll see here, before I get into that, I'm just going to show you here. Now, this is the gray I'm talking about. Very light for the mountains. I'm keeping it light. I really want distant mountains. I'm not looking for the mountains to really be the star of the show here. You've seen me do plenty of mountains. This is a little different here. Now, I'm taking a little water on my brush. You can see I've pulled away some of the paint. So I've instantly made it snowy mountains just by taking off some of the color. So that's it. That's really all we're going to do for the mountains. Now, to get back to what I was saying before about when you do a hill, always try to make sure your verticals, trees, plants, whatever, they're still vertical. They're not going to follow the slope of the hill for the most part. It'll look strange if you do that. So you want those things to stand straight up. Okay, so here I'm kind of defining underneath. We're getting a little bit closer to our viewpoint. So I've intensified the gray a little bit. And this really is going to set the backdrop for our trees, which will be the main focal point here. So I'm getting a little more brown here. I'm just going to define this foliage that's coming down. Again, keeping those things vertical. So you want to use, sort of the corner of the brush. And you see now that it's dried, our mountains are very distant. Adding a little bit of blue, a little bit of red, just trying to get some purple here. Alizarin And you'll see in the corner there, I keep a pyrrole red. I have the essential 7 colors, the English landscape colors, going around the perimeter of the board. So my palette here, I've got the Payne's Gray, Lemon Yellow, Ultramarine Blue, Alizarin Crimson, Burnt Umber. And then as I move inward toward the center of this palette, which again this is the Paul Rubens palette. I'm using that purple, by the way, the bluish purple, just to kind of define a little snowy areas rather than just leave it white. You know, shadows are kind of blue looking, blue-purple looking. If you've ever been going by a scene with a lot of snow, you'll see these shadows. They have that blue, they look blue. So, and I'm just kind of defining the base of underneath those, that little bit of vegetation there. But as I was saying, I have, if you look across my top, I go from Payne's Gray, and then I've got like 3 or 4 different reds there. In the corner, that's actually, I put some raw sienna in there for some reason. I'm not really sure why I went there, but try to keep the reds there. And then in the center, I've got 3 different yellows. So if you're talking about expanding your palette, I've had some people say, well, I've got the 7 colors. I'm kind of looking into some other colors. Go into maybe a couple other blues, maybe a couple other reds. You know, stay within that range because, you know, your primaries are, you know, blue, red, and yellow. Those are going to be your primaries, so anything that you mix within that, it's just a matter of mixing things a little differently. There was one artist, the lady Nita Engel, and according to her books and materials, she's pretty much been relegated to the primary colors to stay away from staining and different effects that some mixed colors can have. Now what I'm doing here is I'm taking this raw sienna. I'm pretty sure this is raw sienna. I'm just kind of laying in because in the original picture there's some brown going on with the pines. You know, there's always a little brown in there. I don't want to paint dead trees, but I'm just kind of doing this as a little back element. So everything so far that I've done is just kind of, again, this is the setting the stage phase I always talk about. And in this one here, we are, you know, we have our background elements. Now we're starting to move into the foreground, the main elements of the painting. So now I'm darkening that brown up a little bit. Work lighter, go darker, and then you can start adding, you know, getting a little dimension from your colors. When I first started painting, my mindset was to paint solid colors, and in between every color, I would wash the brush. And so my colors were very, very solid. If you look back at some of my early stuff, I have a lot of those are on Instagram. And if you go to my website, joemenzaart.com or joemenza.com, you can see all of my links to everything. And you can even go on there. I've had some people do the buy me a coffee thing, which is nice. If I've inspired you to paint, pick up a brush, always nice to get, you know, be able to get more materials and keep doing this as often as I can. Now I'm going to put some little green trees in here, little pines. And I've moved into the combination of the ultramarine blue, lemon yellow, and Payne's Gray. Always use those 3 for I don't use any greens out of the tube. I'm not really a fan of them. They all kind of look gaudy to me. But one of the turning points that I found was when I didn't wash my brush as much. Now, if you need to go to a yellow or something like that, you want a clean brush, clean water, if you're using a lot of yellows. But for the most part, I found that the little, you know, a lot of people look at your palette and they go, how come, you know, how come you're not a mud maker? You know, the dirt part or the contamination part stays on top. When you spray them, the water kind of rolls off. And you don't end up, you're not mixing that paint together, so you don't end up with dirty colors. But when you're mixing it on the brush and you have 2, maybe 3 colors that get on your brush, you get an interesting combination. And if you don't mix them too much, then you end up with a little variance, a little variety in the color. So they don't look solid color. They don't look like, okay, I have green leaves here, a brown tree trunk, and, blue water. Once I started doing that, then I started really finding that I was happier with the paintings had a little more flow to them. So now you can see I'm taking this green, I'm going over that brown, and you're going to see a little hint of that raw sienna back there. And I'm just using my fan brush. I like the fan brush. It automatically paints pine branches for you. You don't have to work that hard at it. Now you can use the Hake brush. You can use that. You have to use the corner of the brush. You can, frizz up the bristles a little bit. But I found there's nothing wrong with having an additional brush. 4 brushes really, I would say you need, and that is the Hake brush, the fan brush, a rigger brush, and possibly a flat brush. Now for me, I like to have 2 sizes of the Ron Ranson brush. I like to have a small one and a large one. And I'll start off my bigger washes with the bigger brush. And then if I want to go in a little bit smaller, then I'll go down to the small, medium. They're very, very close. People ask me, where do you get that brush? I mean, you can order them on Amazon has them, eBay has them. I think Cheap Joe's has them. So we've got some of the layouts for our trees here. And I'm just, again, mixing up some different greens. And this is, this is more of a brown color. And I'm just wanting to put in some trunks to these trees. And then, of course, on the green, I did the scratch, just to vary it up a little bit. So the trees have some trunk to them. And I'm going to take that same trunk and use the corner of my card and just put a little light onto the side of the trunk. So you have to scratch very carefully and in the same straight line to get that. Okay, so now over to the tree colors again. Here I had a little on my palette. I'm just going to drop in a little bit more green. And I'm going to go over this, the lemon yellow you're seeing there. And I'm just going to highlight a little bit and cover up a little bit of that trunk. There should be some leaves in front of it that you can't see the trunk. Try to get a natural looking evergreen effect. These here are a little different than a lot of times I fill in the whole tree. There's no like white spots. These here I kind of like because they're a little more branchy than the other ones that I've done. And you can see I've done those other trees, they're a little shorter, so we don't want to cover that mountain in the background. That's the reason for that. And I'm just putting in a little shadowy stuff in between the trees so that there's just not this stark opening there. So like something's like going around on in the background. Okay, so now comes a little bit of the scary part of the painting. I'm going to take a little bit of this blue, ultramarine blue, and I'm going to start making sort of a shadowy, snowy effect here. Just sort of randomly dropping in along where this tree line is, leaving a little bit of a path up the hill. and just kind of dancing this in here to give a snow blue, maybe a little bit of a shadowy effect. It's really very random. I'm not really following the pattern of the trees. Someone could say, well, your shadows are off or they don't match, but I think they've done what I need them to do here. Okay, so now that that's done, we're in what I call the final details stage. We did our initial wash. We did our background elements, our main shaped elements, and then shaded and highlighted. And now this is where I just kind of look and I say, can I fix anything, or is there any little trees that need a little, something that just needs a little touch up here and there. So this is the opportunity to do that. Because other elements have dried, so it gives you an opportunity to look at it and say, now I could add a little shadow, darker leaves here, highlight something there. So you stand back, you look at your painting, and, you see if there's somewhere you can enhance something that stands out to your eye, maybe you don't like. It's a chance to fix it now. Okay, so I'll take my little 0.5 pen here, pop in a couple little birds up in the sky, give the painting a little bit of life, and then I will sign, and then we'll take a closer up look to it. I enjoyed painting this one. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you give it a try, see how your results come out. So here is, let's zoom in, there's those birds, the distant mountains, and you can see the trees. Close up they don't look, you got to stand back and then you can really appreciate the painting. But for our artists, we want to look in real close and see those brush strokes. That actually got me in trouble back in the day at the museum. I've decided here, I'm giving this a little shot of yellow here. This is one really plus with the spray bottle, that I can look at something and say, I lost my warmth that I wanted in the beginning, and I can give it a zap with that spray bottle and I can bring that warmth right back. But no, I was at the museum and I was looking at the paintings and I was getting too close. So the security guards, they says, oh, you got to stand back. I'm like, I just want to see the brush strokes. So kind of a funny story. So just taking a look at it with my mat. My mat doesn't quite fit this exactly right, but it's close. I did buy a mat cutter, interestingly. I haven't had the time to play with the thing. I have some mat boards sitting here I wanted to cut and try, and now my mat cutter's in my garage on the table, and it's freezing here. So it'll be something a while I get to. I thought, well, I got a lot of time, right? So we all hope anyway. So here we go. We'll put the mat back on. Take a look. And here we go. Just to kind of show you that far away view. And then here, let's take a look here. Zoom in, see the trees in that. I enjoyed painting this one, and I hope you enjoyed watching and you give it a shot. Thanks for watching, everybody.